Physical therapy. Welcome back, guys. Here in episode 4, we're going to continue to journey through the progressions that we've been taking a look at with the anterior reaches, the lower extremity driver. We're going to be combining a couple things now. So in episode 1, we used just kind of straight body weight with the wooden dowel as some guidance and a tool. We then used the old OPTP slant wedge, the foam wedge, dorsiflexed it to kind of take the slack out of the system in the sagittal plane. In episode 3, we went with our progressions and inverted the foam wedge to block the midfoot and give us that relative eversion in the frontal plane. Really unlock and dissociate that midfoot from the rear foot. What we're going to do now, for the sake of you being able to see a combination of 2 wedges, you can go ahead and use 2 OPTP slant wedges, these black wedges, because they're both black. It's sometimes hard to see in the video what's actually taking place. So I'm using my nifty little Kelton-born wedge here. What we're going to be doing, and I'm going to show you a side view kind of this a little bit so you can just kind of check that out. I'm going to position the wedge in a dorsiflexed position, take out the slack in the sagittal plane. I'm then with the Kelton-born wedge going to find that navicular tuberosity, that little bone that's in front of the inside kind of ankle bone there, that medial malleoli, and I'm going to wedge on up kind of that midfoot. I'm going to block them. So now the rear foot and the midfoot in that frontal plane become mobilized. What we're going to do, and I'm going to move my foot on over just a little bit there. There we go. I'm going to take you through these sequences now in terms of kind of position for the anterior medial, and posterior medial with this upper extremity driver. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go anterior, straight anterior. That base foot again, my right foot, for you all watching, is going to be pointed at 12 o'clock on a clock. We don't want any of that heel whipping. When the foot stays forward, my left heel can start on top of the wedge. I'm going to go anterior reach. And anterior reach is my upper extremity driver, ipsilateral, same side arm reaching. I can then with this start to just kind of add a little transverse plane reach, kind of in sync to get a little rotation going. Kind of open up that mid-tarsal joint, really in that transverse plane, as it's dorsiflexing and as it's kind of everting in the frontal plane. What I'm going to have you then do, a little frontal plane reach. We're going to add our pendulum swings here in a minute. Let's go ahead and add our transverse plane, so our rotational pendulum swing, as we kind of speed it on up. And then kind of the frontal plane right here. And then the frontal plane. We're now going to go anterior medial. We're going to go medial and posterior medial. Let's do the same thing. I'm just going to do a variety of each just to kind of give you all a perspective on what it is that we're doing. Dorsiflexion, eversion, a little bit more with this anterior medial. Kind of mob and reach. And I can preset my upper extremity as well. Let's go a little pendulum swing in the frontal plane. And in the transverse plane. And now we're going to go straight medial with it. I'm going to show you a perspective from posterior, so you guys to be able to take a look at things from behind as well on a few of these. So we're going to go straight medial. Straight medial with the reach. So a little more rotation kind of to the mix. And then let's add our pendulum swings. Really taking the slack out of the system. A little transverse plane pendy swing. And now we're going to go posterior medial. So dowel-wise again, positioned in a way that's comfortable for the patient, client, for you. Let's just with that left lower extremity, let's go with the posterior medial reach to kind of really go after the element of that transverse plane, really sequencing the dorsiflexion and the eversion. When we were going medial a second ago, it's kind of biasing that eversion, that frontal plane, that side to side motion. We're now going to add a A little pendy swing. A little frontal plane pendy swing. Change levels, and then change directions, and then transverse plane pendy swing. Good. What we're going to do next, let me show you a behind view and perspective of that, guys. And then I'm going to show you anterior lateral, what we'll do with the wedges, to kind of facilitate that dorsiflexion inversion of TZ2. So from behind, what this is going to look like. So using my right foot, just pay attention to kind of my right heel, my right foot and ankle. Down off the wedge a little bit. It's really going after opening up that mid-tarsal joint and that talocurl joint. So a little frontal plane, kind of pendy. Right foot is flat on the ground. Transverse plane pendy. We're going to go anterior medial now to sequence the dorsiflexion and eversion a little bit more. I'm going to go with just simple reaches and stuff first. Just a simple, just kind of reach the anterior medial direction. Let's add a little transverse plane, kind of pendy swing, and now frontal plane. Now let's go straight medial, the bias, a little bit more of the eversion at the foot and ankle. Let's add a little more of an upper extremity transverse plane reach. With that straight kind of medial reach here, just start to kind of bias and go a little more posterior medial. And then we'll just come in with our pendy. Frontal plane pendy, and then transverse plane pendy. Let's go posterior medial. So 135 degrees out and to the left. Just go with our reaches. Get us rolling. Let's go with our transverse swing, pendulum swing. Get that rotation going. So speed up the sequencing of the medial rotation, the internal rotation of the leg. Tibia and the fibula, the gapping of those two bones down at the ankle joint themselves to enable that heel to drop down and in, and that talus, that little talus bone to drop down and in. Now let's go a little frontal plane, pendulum swing. There you go. From the side, so if we're to do TZ2 now with the right foot and ankle, we're going to want to invert kind of the heel, so we're going to reverse it on up. Wedge is still going to be inverted, but it's designed to go on in at that rear foot, palpate the navicular tuberosity, go just back to that. It separates the rear foot from the midfoot. Dowel in the right arm, right foot is the foot we're going after. The left arm is going to give us that opposite arm, opposite leg, that contralateral reach. Right arm, little transverse plane pendy, frontal plane pendy. We can also do kind of double wedge it. So we can go after kind of the midfoot with the Kelton-born wedge, kind of everting him to get that good disassociation, that wet washcloth, that ringing like effect. So if I want to be a little more fancy, my foot's basically down just in the valley of these two wedges. As the rear foot's inverting, midfoot and the forefoot, we're getting some good relative inversion to help lock up that mid-tarsal joint to give us something good and solid to be able to push off of before we take flight. There you go, guys. Episode 4. Play around with that. We're going to do a hybrid episode next. for episode 5 and then episode 6, we're going to use a fascinating, cool, innovative, unique way to add progressive oscillations kind of to this mix, open up the foot and the ankle.